This video is so essential to the understanding of how you're going to proceed in escaping disaster, in understanding how the system around you operates, that I felt it better this week to actually do some videos at the beginning of the week, and then let you have the chance to review them and then go into more of the word importance on various definitions of words so you understand the meaning of the words. But one thing we want to just be clear while we're doing this video anyways is the fact is that the dictionary words that we're putting in there, you need to get this into your understanding of vocabulary so that you're able to walk properly with a comprehension of these words that you wouldn't normally have had. Now, we know that we're not getting the views on the words because a lot of people take on the assumption that now they know, maybe because they've watched so many of the videos that they think that they don't need to have clarification on these words. But we'll still continue to do this because we know that it's essential, and that's where we're putting them up. And we're putting them there because without them, how would anybody who's watching something for the first time trying to learn how a word operates, especially in the legal system, how would they possibly function or defend themselves spiritually in truth without understanding what a word actually means? So walking blindly is not a good idea. Certainly that's part of the ID system, and it's ideology to walk blindly, but it's not truthful to follow those kind of paths. So we want to ground ourselves in understanding of what these words mean. So now when we go to the greatest trick, most people don't realize that, of course, why would it start off in a statement of birth record that the parents fill out? How would that come about? Well, because there's truth and fiction mixing in this framework, and the fact is that someone who's innocent, who's never committed a sin, is placed in this. This is the offspring of the woman spoken of in Genesis that was beguiled. So you were beguiled into the same scheme that Satan had from the beginning. He hasn't changed anything. This is his schematic, but people have overlooked it and don't realize he needed you to be beguiled into a system of fraud to make you believe that something which is false is true. So when we look at how our system operates, it's based on a schematic that you would believe that the last name, the name that places a burden on you, that means a debt or a debtor in the legal system, is your name. Therefore, if it is not your name, then you'd be guarantoring someone else's debt. And because the lawyers work for the supreme ruler who advocates this fraud, they need you to enter into their schematic. So they're there to deceive you, to believe that something which is false is true, which is the definition of to deceive. But the definition of legal fiction is the assumption of the legal system that something which is false is true. So you would have to believe that the surname, which is a fiction of law, is true. Now we go to the Bible, which clearly is the way we should be looking for the wisdom from our Creator. And when we look at the Bible in Genesis, it starts off in Genesis chapter 2, verse 16, and the Lord God commanded the man, saying, of every tree of the garden thou mayest freely eat. Now we know that the word tree from previous videos leads to the word trust. So he is basically dealing with a trust. It says, but the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, now there's another tree, that's another trust, but it's not one that man's supposed to be partaking in. Thou shalt not eat of it, for in the day thou shalt eateth thereof, thou shalt surely die. Now we're entering into the dead. You'll surely be dead. You won't be a living, you'll be a dead entity. So we go further into the account, and we get to chapter 3, and it said, and the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field. You look at the word subtle in its etymology. The word subtle means web and tack. How interesting that those two words are the etymology of the word subtle. And we're in a technology age right now, not by chance. And we have the World Wide Web. Further it states, which the Lord God had made, and he said unto the woman, ye hath God said, ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden? Now he puts a question into her, a doubt. And the woman said unto the serpent, we may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, God hath said, ye shall not eat of it, neither shall ye touch it, lest ye die. And the serpent said unto the woman, ye shall not surely die. So he just literally told her to do something that was contrary to the command given to Adam. The only difference from what happened with Eve was, Eve didn't know which tree it was, because she said that she was talking only about a tree in the middle of the garden. Both trees were in the middle of the garden. She didn't state which tree it was. So she was ignorant of the fact of what she was about to trespass on. If she had known clearly which tree it was, she would have been basically in knowledge of a violation. So we have two things in the Latin maxims. Ignorance of the law is no excuse, but they don't talk very much about the other opposite to that maxim, which is ignorance of the fact is an excuse. That means she was ignorant of the truth of which tree was the tree she could partake from, and which tree was the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, the one that was forbidden. So he used her lack of knowledge to induce her into trespassing or stealing or taking something that wasn't hers. So we read further, and after the sin happened, God is in the situation, and he says, and he said, who told thee that thou wast naked? Hast thou eaten of the tree whereof I commanded thee that thou shouldest not eat? Now you notice that the first rendering of the word who shows up. So significantly, we've been talking about this with an organization that's running the biggest scam you could think of on a false malady, a feigned malady. We're going to do another video on that on the next video that will clearly point this out. But they pulled a big scam. And who's behind that? Well, you've got the health organization that has a symbol of a serpent wrapped around a pole. And they're telling people that this is good for them. Don't worry, take this. You won't die. How significant is that? This is the most amazing scam I've ever in the entire existence of my short existence on this earth have ever witnessed. And the amount of people that have been conned by this. But that is unfortunately what happens with lack of knowledge. That people of God, if they're, well, we're all people of God by origin, but people of God who refuse to see this will perish due to lack of knowledge. So unfortunately, this is infiltrated The serpent has infiltrated the entire system of the world, and especially those that claim spirituality, because there are many that have these registered religions that claim to be following the Bible, of Christian origin, and then they're telling their followers, their members, to actually take the poison of the serpent. This is just so diabolical and disappointing that I probably couldn't say enough on it. But we're able to put these videos up for the moment. But when you look at the fact that the serpent was cursed, and the fact is that how the people that work for the devil, that operate in fiction, are fraudsters, they're cursed, and that is what basically fraud really is. Someone who is actually cursed will operate in fraud. So we have to realize that a great message is being put out here right now, and it's not something from me. This is something that's already been put in writing ahead of time to guide you, to be a light for how you walk in the midst of a darkness of a very, very evil society.